A quick break to tell you about how to sleep better, thanks to our sponsor. Helix Sleep makes premium mattresses and bedding that are customized to fit your needs and conveniently shipped right to your door. Their lineup offers 20 unique mattresses, including their award-winning Luxe and Ultra Premium Elite collections, and the Helix Kids mattress, designed for growing bodies and endorsed by child sleep and medical experts. Take their sleep quiz to match your unique body type and sleep preferences to the perfect mattress for you. Based on my results, Helix matched me with their Dusk Luxe mattress. I really love the carefully crafted attention to detail and being able to see almost instant improvements in the sleep experience. Helix offers free shipping in the US, the mattress comes rolled up in a box, and it's super easy to set it up yourself. Helix has a 100-night sleep trial, so you can get more than 3 months to make sure that you love it. They also have a 10-year warranty, and they even offer financing options and flexible payment plans, so a great night's sleep is never far away. If you're looking for a new bed, check out Helix Sleep. Their 4th of July sale is running now. It's the perfect time to upgrade your sleep with 30% off an Elite or Luxe mattress plus 2 free pillows, or take 25% off site-wide. Click the link below or go to helixsleep.com/Erika Kohlberg to find out more about this limited time offer. I'll put the link in the description below.
We're full steam ahead on this family seating rule. That's going to take more steps. It takes a lot to legally get a rule on the books, but we think it's worth it, and so we're going to follow through there. And I'm really excited for these to go into effect.
Pete Buttigieg is a U.S. politician and former mayor of South Bend, Indiana, which is where I went to college at Notre Dame. He also ran for president in the 2020 election. He now serves as the U.S. Secretary of Transportation, focusing on modernizing infrastructure and improving transportation. What do you do if your bag is lost by the airlines?
If you're left in the lurch, your baggage didn't get there, there's a requirement that
Hi, it's Erika Kohlberg, and before we dive into today's podcast episode, I have an exciting announcement that can help you save an extra $1,000 without having to penny pinch or change your lifestyle. On Monday, I'm running my free 5-day savings challenge, where you'll discover simple and creative ways that you can save extra money every month. And whatever you want to do with that extra money is up to you. I'll just show you how to save it. The challenge is totally free to join. All you need to do is go to erika.com/go. Erika is with a K, and you can secure your spot. By the way, these strategies that you're going to discover can help you easily save money, whether you're a budgeting novice or a finance expert. And they're going to get better and better throughout the week. But I have to tell you, I'm so excited about this and don't want you to miss out. In November of last year, we ran a savings challenge and had over 200,000 people sign up. And on average, people saved $1,005 that month through what they learned in the challenge. That means our challengers collectively saved over $200 million. So trust me when I say you don't want to miss out on this one. And the deadline to sign up to be part of this free challenge is Sunday, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure you secure your spot and get free access today. Again, that's erika.com/go, erika.com/go. See you inside. I'm Erika Kohlberg, and you're listening to the Erika Taught Me podcast. So what do you do if your flight is delayed or canceled?
Well, if your flight is canceled under our new rule, you will automatically get a refund. It's important to know this because in the past, it's been difficult to get a refund, even if you were already technically entitled to get one. With delays, it depends on how bad the delay is and what you choose to do. So sometimes you're delayed, you stick it out, you take a rebooking, maybe onto a different flight, maybe you stay on the original flight, fine. But if the delay is so bad that you don't even take that flight anymore, maybe you book a different flight with a different airline because you just got to get to where you're going. That is also another case where there will now be an automatic refund.
And you don't have to do anything for it. It'll just automatically hit your credit card or wherever.
Exactly. For example, if you purchase your ticket with a credit card, the airline will be required to put that refund back on your credit card in 7 business days or less. We're trying to end this pattern where you have to ask, you have to haggle, you have to fight even, just to get money that is already supposed to be coming back to you. So the refund has to come back to the original form of payment, which most often turns out to be a credit card.
That's wonderful. And when does this go into effect?
So this was fortified by the FAA reauthorization that just passed. Bottom line is by the end of the year, this will be widespread, and we're challenging the airlines to do it right away.
That's perfect. And for the delay, is a 2-hour delay enough, or what is the hour
So we
limit?
define 3 hours
Okay.
as an extreme enough delay to trigger this refund provision. Now, I should also add, it's also the case with the different airlines that we have engaged, that if they're responsible for a delay, they will commit to providing things like meal or vouchers. That's already been the case. You can find out more airline by airline at flightrights.gov. But what's new is that you hit that 3 hour mark. And if you choose not to take that flight because it's just you can't even get to where you're going or whatever the reason, automatically you should be getting your money back.
And it doesn't matter if the delay is because of weather or a mechanical or staffing issue?
That's right. Some of those other things like food, hotels, that's for situations where the airline is responsible for the delay. But to be clear, this automatic refund for a canceled flight or an extreme delay so you don't even take the flight, that is no matter what the reason.
That's so good because I feel like a lot of times you have to haggle the airlines and you have to fill out all of these forms online. So the automatic part is such a game changer.
Yeah, it's going to save passengers so much hassle. It's even going to save us some trouble here at the Department of Transportation because a lot of energy here goes into chasing down complaints when consumers tell us that they were owed a refund but didn't get one. By making it automatic, it's going to make it much, much simpler, most importantly for passengers, but also it makes these rules simpler to enforce.
And is this for all domestic flights or even international flights into the US?
So our authority touches any flight that comes into or out of the US. So if it's arriving here, leaving here, or between 2 points in the United States, these passenger protections apply to you.
There's also a new rule around lost luggage. Can you talk about that one?
This rule is about things in addition to your airfare that you pay for. And if you don't get them, you ought to get your money back. Luggage is a great example. If you paid to have your baggage come with you and there's an extreme delay in the baggage arriving, you ought to get that baggage fee back. You're not just paying the baggage fee for it to get there someday. You're paying for it to come along with you. And so the cutoff in terms of how extreme the delay is to get your money back varies depending on how long the flight was, but it's proportional. And the bottom line is if you pay for something, pay extra for something, whether it's check baggage or whether it's Wi-Fi, if you don't get the service you paid for, you ought to get your money back without having to ask.
And is that in effect now? So, for example, if I'm on a plane and the Wi-Fi, I pay for it, but it doesn't work, can I get that back right now?
This will take full effect by this fall, but again, we're challenging the airlines to beat that deadline. That deadline is the last possible day for them to deliver. They should start doing this as quickly as possible.
Will that be automatic too? Or those we'd have to put in a request saying the Wi-Fi didn't work or the entertainment system didn't work?
It should be automatic. Of course, if the airline isn't aware there is a problem, you might have to notify them. But part of what we're making sure of as a watchdog is if you do, they shouldn't put up a fight. If you didn't get the service, you shouldn't have to pay for it.
Perfect. And then in terms of airlines starting to implement this sooner than the fall, will we know which airlines have implemented them?
We'll make sure to keep the public updated. Again, nothing's stopping the airlines from doing this practice already. We think they should have been doing it all along, but because they weren't, we went ahead and put in this rule to require it.
What do you do if your bag is lost by the airlines?
So if you're left in the lurch, your baggage didn't get there, there's a requirement that your costs be covered. That includes incidental expenses. You got to get a toothbrush or an undershirt and whatever it is, they have to cover it. And then up to $3,800 or the value of the luggage itself if they lose it.
Perfect. And do you see a lot of complaints that airlines aren't following through with some of these rules?
We have had cases of airlines not doing what they're required to do. When that happens, we run down those cases, and sometimes that can lead to a major enforcement action. For example, we've had a lot of cases during and since COVID where airlines were dragging their feet on getting people the refunds that they were owed. It's why we've increased the fines that we are charging those airlines if we catch them doing that. Not because we're excited about the fines, but because we're trying to change their behavior. The biggest example yet has been Southwest, the meltdown that they had about a year and a half ago now. We had a record enforcement action, about $135 million, but a lot of that was in the form of compensation to future passengers, as well as the cash fine that went to the Treasury to make sure that airlines get the economic message not to allow that to happen in the first place.
And have you seen that stricter enforcement has resulted in
fewer mess ups by the airlines?
We're definitely encouraged by the results. Look, the point of all of this is to make sure these problems don't happen in the first place. And if you look at last year, for example, after seeing so many extreme delays, cancellations in 2022, even on days when the weather was fine, we did see major improvement in 23. Matter of fact, the cancellation rate last year was at a 10-year low. It was at or under 1.4%. So far, we're seeing similar numbers this year, but we're watching closely, especially knowing there's record numbers of passengers likely to be flying this year.
That's incredible. Last time we had you on the podcast, which was over a year and a half ago, at that point, we were talking about the airline customer service dashboard being a thing that you were working on. Now it is live and it's very helpful. Can you walk through what that is as a resource and why it's helpful?
Yeah, this is about transparency and making sure you as a passenger can get good information airline by airline on what they provide, especially in situations where they're responsible for you being delayed. Are you going to get a meal? Are you going to get ground transportation? Are you going to get an easy and free rebooking? Until we put up that dashboard, none of the airlines guaranteed any of that. But when we told them the dashboard was coming, I wrote the CEOs of the airlines. I said, hey, we're going to put this information out, make it really easy for your customers to tell. So you might want to update your customer service plans. And they did. It was one of the fastest things I've ever seen happen in government. They responded within a matter of days. And that didn't even involve a regulation or an investigation. We just said, hey, we're going to make this information easy to find. And that change their behavior. Part of what I've learned a lot about on this job is the different ways you can change airlines' behaviors. Sometimes you can do it with something as simple as a dashboard, getting more information to passengers. Other times you actually have to go as far as to launch an investigation or introduce a new rule. But all of those things put together add up to what I believe is the biggest expansion in passenger rights that we've experienced in my lifetime.
In your time in this office, what has been the thing that you're the most proud of?
I'm really proud of this automatic refund rule. For so long, it's been the case that customers are supposed to get their money back, but it's actually the exception rather than the rule. I think that airline behavior has been shaped by that, knowing that if a flight gets canceled, most of those passengers won't get their money back anyway. It's a very different reality than if an airline, especially an airline considering an unrealistic scheduling move, knows that just about everybody on that flight, everybody who doesn't specifically request otherwise, like ask for miles or a voucher, is going to get that cash back. I think it's a big deal. It's probably why the airlines responded by pushing back so hard. But I also think it's something that's really going to improve the passenger experience. And I even think it's good for the airlines in the long run because their business will be stronger when passengers have more confidence.
A lot of times airlines will do this thing where they sell more seats than that are actually available on the plane, and that results in people getting bumped from their flight. It's involuntary denied boarding. What can people do if they are bumped from their flight?
So if you are involuntarily denied boarding, in other words, if you get bumped, you are entitled to compensation. The airline has to take care of you, and if they didn't, let us know. That's another thing about our website, flightrights.gov. It doesn't just have a dashboard with good information. It's got links to how to launch a complaint with our Office of Consumer Protection if the airline is not responding to you.
Perfect. And just for those listening, for that, if you just search involuntary denied boarding, DOT, you're going to see the exact language that you need there because the compensation depends on how long that delay is. So that's the best resource to get there. A lot of times people travel with their children. What should they know before they're traveling with children?
Well, this is personal for me now. When I got this job, I didn't have kids. Now Chasten and I have twin toddlers, and so we're living this. One of the biggest things we've been working on is making sure you don't have to pay extra in order to sit next to your kids. Some airlines now guarantee this, and you can go to our website to find out which of those airlines do so. But we're working on a rule to make sure that all airlines have to do this because it's just, to me, common sense. You shouldn't have to pay extra to sit with your kids, and you shouldn't have to haggle or beg, borrow, and steal to get that kind of seating either. You don't want to be in a situation where you get to the gate and then you're having to negotiate with a gate agent or get on board and negotiate with a flight attendant just to sit with your family. So that's an example of something that is worth checking our website to learn more about, as well as just some of the other protections that are there because knowing whether you can get a hotel if you get stuck or a meal covered. That's important for all of us as travelers. It's much more important if you're traveling with kids.
Of course. And I think for the kids, it's such a good one too. I think right now there are about 4 airlines that are on board with it. But are you saying that hopefully if this rule goes into effect, all of them will have to be on board with this?
That's right. I've called on every airline to offer fee-free family seating. So far, 4 of the airlines have done so. The rest of them haven't. And so we're working on a rule that would require it. My message to the airlines continues to be, don't make us put in a rule, just do it. But we're going to have it be both and. We're asking them to do the right thing and working on a rule that will require it.
I love that. And we're being nice by not naming and shaming the bad ones.
No, but you can check on our website and see exactly who will do what. And again, that power of transparency, I think, makes a big difference.
What about, especially now that you have kids, what other travel tips do you have for parents traveling with their children?
Well, it's definitely a good idea to allow plenty of time. This was a big adjustment for me as a frequent traveler and as a frequent work traveler. I'm used to a very tight routine. But when you're on toddler time, it's just different, and your plans should allow for that. It's also important to have the right gear, and that's something that I think we all learn by experience as parents, and definitely as parents on the go. And know how much goes into making sure that you're not just protected as a consumer, but also safe. The most important thing for us, especially when we think about families and kids, is making sure that everybody has a safe travel experience. And part of why we're doing a lot on the FAA side of the house around the safety of aircraft and airline operations is to maintain this incredibly strong U.S. safety record when it comes to airlines.
What's been the best family trip you've taken so far?
Oh, wow. Our kids are pretty good travelers for being 2. We're about to take a big trip to between Washington and Michigan, where we live. And ask me in a couple days, I'll tell you whether it was the best or the worst.
Love it. There are a few questions I got from my audience. One was, sometimes people are just stuck on the tarmac and the flight is just sitting there for hours and hours. Is there anything that you're entitled to in that case?
There is. There's a rule that goes back to the Obama administration that we enforce, and it includes substantial fines if an airline leaves you for an unreasonable amount of time on the tarmac. Look, we all know sometimes there's a bit of a backup at the gate or getting onto the runway. We're not talking about ordinary delays, but if you have an extreme delay, then there is a major consequence for the airline, and airlines should compensate for you for that too.
So my audience member, I believe they were stuck on the tarmac for 5 hours. What would they be able to do then?
So 5 hours is well over the cutoff of 3 hours that we consider to be an extreme delay. And so you would definitely want to file that with us, make sure we know about that, both so we can take appropriate enforcement action against the airline and to make sure the airline is giving you strong compensation for that.
Got it. Perfect. Another one that I got was what can be done when your wheelchair is damaged?
Another of the things I'm proudest of that we've worked on in this department is improving the experience of wheelchair users. I know so many people who have talked about just nightmare stories of what happened to their wheelchairs, lost or damaged during a flight. And if you count on your wheelchair, having an airline wreck your wheelchair doesn't just ruin your trip. That follows you well past when the trip would have been over, because you could be back home. And without a wheelchair, if you depend on a custom chair, that's really screwing things up for you, potentially for weeks or more. So we have launched a rule process to require a higher standard of training, to require that there be both safe and dignified handling of wheelchairs and the passengers who count on them, and several other measures. You can learn more about this on our website to improve that experience. I know far too many people who are wheelchair users who choose not to fly at all rather than deal with some of the really frustrating experiences that can come with navigating our airports and airlines as a wheelchair user. One more thing I want to make sure that travelers know is that we are investing in better accessibility for everything from the concourse to the gate to the bathroom at airports across the country. And wherever you live, we're doing this in so many places that it's probably coming soon to an airport near you.
Perfect. And just to get clear on that, so if the wheelchair is damaged, I know wheelchairs are very expensive. Can you ask the airline to reimburse you or cover the fix?
So the airline is responsible for covering that repair. One of the things that we're proposing to change with our rule is that you get to choose whether that's your vendor or the airline's vendor, because too often wheelchair users feel that they're at the mercy of the airline and whatever vendor the airline works with to get it fixed. So that's an example of something that we're working on to make it a better experience. But yeah, to be clear, you are already entitled to and should insist on the airline fully covering that cost.
What about for damaged bags? I know a lot of times for damaged bags, you have to just send it in to wherever the airline wants you to get it fixed. Is that something that will change at all?
That's not part of the wheelchair rule, but something we're constantly looking at. Look, wear and tear, dings and scuffs, that's part of travel. But if an airline is mishandling your possessions, that could be an issue. And if we get a high volume of complaints about a particular airline, we're going to take a deeper look at why that's happening.
What are your right now highest priorities of what you want to accomplish, let's say by year end?
Well, we're full steam ahead on this family seating rule. That's going to take more steps. It takes a lot to legally get a rule on the books, but we think it's worth it. And so we're going to follow through there. Enforcement of these automatic refunds. I'm hoping the airlines will do the right thing and enforcement will be easy because we won't have to fine them for failing to do the right thing. But so much depends on them proving that they're ready to actually make this happen. We're also just focused on the health of the aviation system overall, making sure there are fewer pinch points or choke points in the system, having better airports and better flow in the air traffic system. That's a long-term project, but we're going to make some big gains this year. And I'm really excited for these refund rules to go into effect.
Another question that I got from my audience is what happens if you can't make a connecting flight? So a lot of times I'm seeing that these connections are about 45 minutes. That's pretty tight to make happen. So what happens if you miss your connecting flight?
So the good news is, compared to 10 or 15 years ago, the technology has improved, and it's always a good idea to have your reservation in the app associated with the airline, because the computer might rebook you right away, and you want to make sure you get that information quickly. But in the event that you miss that flight and you have a connection, the airline still needs to get you to where you're going. And that's another example of where an extreme delay can lead to you being entitled to compensation. More information about that on our website, but the first place you should look for information is the airline itself, and often you can get that directly in the app on your phone.
Do you recommend booking flights direct through airlines rather than third parties?
You can do either. Just make sure you know that if you use a third party, you may have to deal with that third party if you want to make a change. Whereas with the airline, it can be simpler. But both of those are legitimate ways to buy a ticket. It's why we're also making sure that both of those ways of ticket buying include provisions for refunds and transparency. We've got another rule that's requiring that the airline or the ticket agent, whoever you're buying the ticket from, puts that information out up front so that if you're going to face a fee for a change or a cancel or baggage or whatever, you don't have to guess on that, but they put it out right away. And it was important to us to make sure that that extended not just to the airlines themselves, but to anybody who might be selling you a ticket.
So a lot of my audience is educated about the rules, and then when they try to get the airlines to follow these rules, they have a really hard time. I've directed them to the complaints page of your department. Is that the best resource for them?
Yes. To be clear, the airline should take care of this. So you want to check with your airline first and tell them that they need to take care of you. But if you're ever having a problem with the airline, if they are not following the rules, then let us know. That's what that complaint page is for. And we will, it might take a minute because we've got a small team and a lot of complaints, but we will work with that and help you run that down.
What are the biggest complaints that you're seeing?
A lot of it was about refunds. We really saw a surge in refund-related complaints, especially around COVID with all of those cancellations that were happening. That's what led to us really changing our enforcement practices, effectively adding a 0 to the level of fines that we were prepared to assess in order to push the airlines to do the right thing. But whether it's about family seating, baggage issues, or anything else, we take every one of those complaints seriously.
What are the travel frustrations that you've personally dealt with in the last few years?
I'm a frequent flyer. I am on a flight every few days, and so like millions of Americans, experience both the benefits and the frustrations of air travel. I think a lot of it is down to making sure that each of us understands our role as a passenger in making sure it's a good flight. We were really troubled by some of the unruly air incidents, passenger incidents that happened, especially in our first couple of years here. That's gotten better, but there's still more work to be done there. My complaints are usually little ones. if I'm in the middle seat or there's just not enough room there, like all of us, that's something that can affect how much you enjoy your flight. But I try to be easygoing as a passenger because I know that that can balance out how tough we are as regulators.
Are you a window or aisle seat kind of person?
I'm a window guy unless it's a very long flight that I'm going to be awake for. Then it's nice to be able to get up, stretch, and walk around. How about you?
Aisle, because I hate being in the window and having to inconvenience two people to go to the restroom, and I have a small bladder, so.
The great thing about the window is you have something to lean your head on when you're ready to sleep. One more pet peeve. Far too often, I'm seeing feet going where feet shouldn't be going.
I know.
So let's just be super clear about this. To be fair, this is not backed by the force of law. This is not a regulation, but just for God's sake, keep your feet away from other passengers' elbows or noses or worse. Let's keep your shoes on, let's keep your socks on, and let's just keep your feet on the ground.
I love that. Yeah, I've literally had that where I saw someone's feet like creeping into my seat. No, it's not cool.
Maybe we'll do a regulation about this. In the meantime, just please.
Have you seen the videos of all these people who walk barefoot to the restroom?
Ew.
Yeah.
What? Ew.
That's why you got to stay off TikTok.
A couple other things I would think about. One, especially when lots of people are traveling and there may be more weather this summer too, and so things can happen. We're pushing to make sure airlines take good care of you as a passenger. But also just try to remember how hard workers are working to make that travel experience safe. There are so many people, not just pilots, flight attendants, and mechanics, but the people who are keeping the airport clean, pushing wheelchairs, preparing meals. Some of them you see, some of them you don't. But so many workers go into a flight happening. And I think it's important to show appreciation and respect for those workers. I think it's also important to show some grace for our fellow passengers. Maybe I feel this more strongly now that I'm a parent of toddlers. I try to be much more easygoing, whether I'm traveling with my kids or not, about other parents and their kids, because it's hard. And if you got a screaming infant, that may not be fun for you as a nearby passenger, but think about what it's like for the parent. Think about what it's like for the infant, for that matter, who's maybe got it worst of all, and they're trying to tell you that. So it's as we get into these busy travel seasons, it's just important to remember that we're all in this together. We're all trying to get to the same destination, and there's a lot of value in showing each other as much patience and grace as we can.
I love that. That's a perfect way to go to our closing tradition. So the podcast is called Erika Taught Me, but really today is all about Secretary Pete taught me. So what do you want people to walk away saying, Secretary Pete taught me this?
Wow. I guess I'd want people to know that I in this department have their back. Know that you have more rights as a passenger than at any time since the current aviation system as we know it was created. And there's more where that came from.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
If you've enjoyed the episode, please take a moment to leave a review. It really helps support what we're doing. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you next Tuesday on a brand new episode of Erika Taught Me.